Hi, welcome back to Fresh Faces, New Ideas. My name's David. Now, if you're new to the channel or you want to keep up to date with the videos that I post, please like and subscribe. Please follow me on Twitter at Faces Ideas. Now, in this video, we're going to go over just a plethora of just the misinformation, the terrible statements, the dumb things that have come out of Republicans recently. And this is not just, talking heads or opinion people. This is specifically who they are, because what they've done recently is just they have no talking points. They don't have a political a fundamental argument to what they're pushing, because they're not really pushing anything. Now, let's be clear. I'm not saying that they are the only group that does misinformation. There's certainly misinformation on the left. It is not comparable, though. And I have in the past said some of that. If you go back and listen to some of the older, I don't know if they're still there, some of the older Fresh Faces, New Ideas, I was one of the people who was, asking for the answers to Don Jr.'s, when he did the Russia meeting. I wanted the answers to that because I was convinced that there was no way he didn't talk to Donald Trump. And, when the information came out, I was wrong, and I was wrong. So there is misinformation. These aren't comparable, though. So we're going to go Rick Santorum. We're going to go talk about Newt Gingrich. We're going to talk about Tucker Carlson. And then we're going to go talk about some talking heads. Because here's their push. They cycle through, because it's all cycled together. The Kamala Harris one, we're going to talk about that. How that came about was a Murdoch-owned publication printed a story that was misleading and false. And then it got cycled into Fox News, which is owned by the Murdochs, which then gets cycled back into all the other little mainstream outlets for the Republican talking points. Dinesh D'Souza, the Ben Shapiro's, the Tommy Laurens, the Candace Owens, those people, the Jack Posobiec's, that type of people. So they're different. The problem is when you have a critique of one side, you can actually do it with points. I can give you data to why we should be moving to Medicare for all. I've given you data to why a good guy with a gun does not exist to stop a bad guy with a gun. I can give you data to why gun control might help us. I can give you data why tax cuts for the rich do not work. There's 50 years of that. The problem is the current Republican Party doesn't have a platform. It's just against Biden. Everything is socialism. If you're trying to help the American people, it's socialism, or they don't want it. And there's this myth of this silent majority. The silent majority has not been a thing for like 2 decades. How do I know this? The American people have proved it over and over and over and over and over again. Every single election, national election, whether it comes in a presidential election or an off-year election in the Senate, the 2-year midterms, Republicans lose the popular vote every single time. Yet they either gain power, as they did in 2016, or they are able to circumvent power, as they do in the Senate. They haven't won a popular vote for the presidential election in almost 2 decades. Bush in 2004 was the last one. This idea that there is this silent majority who really cares about Republicans and only wants this country to be conservative is just not true. Even the data for their people. Like for example, the COVID relief bill. Not a single Republican voted for it. Not a single one. It had 70% approval rating. Republicans loved it. The biggest issue with this was Democrats killed the $15 minimum wage in it. The $15 minimum wage in the COVID bill is the single most popular piece of legislation since 2009 with the Dodd-Frank when they put some limitations on the bank. That's how popular this is. Actually, Biden is currently working to make federal contractors get a $15 minimum wage, which, a little positive there. So currently, every single aspect of his jobs program, it is a jobs program, it's not an infrastructure program, is above water. Every single one has positive appeal to the American people. Now, in the face of a shrinking demographic and a misunderstanding and an understanding that your policies are not popular, that's why you can't argue them or you lie about them, you end up with a grievance machine over and over again. And you end up with a misinformation machine and a rewriting of history, whether it is America's racism past, because we have it. It's happened. If you don't like it, sad day for you. That's the facts. Don't care about your feelings. Whether it is about the January 6th insurrection, where you hear over and over again, whether it's Ron Johnson saying it was Antifa, or, they were just going for a walk, or Tucker Carlson saying, hey, look, they just, walked into a building and then they got arrested and now they're on no-fly list. Like, how could this happen? Or Kevin McCarthy recently saying that Donald Trump is actually trying to stop the insurrection, when reporting says that he was watching it angry and apparently spoke directly to McCarthy and said, hey, I guess they care more than you do. So there's that. So let's take a look at Rick Santorum first. So Rick Santorum was talking to the Young Americans Foundations. I don't know what this organization is, but that's irrelevant. So he said there isn't Native American culture in American culture, claiming the United States has been largely unchanged since the country was born out of Judeo-Christian values. We came here and created a blank slate. We birthed the nation from nothing. I mean, there was nothing here. I mean, yes, we have Native Americans, but candidly, there isn't much Native American culture in American culture. Now, technically, he is correct. There is not much Native American culture in American culture, if you ignore the fact that one of the things that the Constitution was based on was the Iroquois Conference. So if you're a party that doesn't believe in history or doesn't believe in facts, or you push this anti-intellectualism, like the Constitution should never be changed, or I want to read the Constitution directly as written, so therefore women and black people don't exist and they shouldn't have votes, it's irrelevant. So, part of the reason we don't have Native American culture is because we systematically destroyed them. And also this idea that Judeo-Christian values, things have changed. Black people were slaves. They are no longer slaves. They were second-class citizens. Then they were almost equal. There's still, technically there's no law on the book that says they're less, but there's built-in issues to our system from all of that. Native Americans are basically the highest population of people who were hurt by the coronavirus was African Americans, Latino minorities, and Native Americans. Native Americans got destroyed by this. They're constantly, their ability to vote is constantly being threatened. So look, as long as you ignore history, this is an objectively correct statement. So there's that. Let's go to Newt Gingrich. Now, Newt Gingrich is basically, all he does is he goes on and he fearmongers. He says, this is the worst administration ever. I can't believe the things that are happening here. This is against American ideals. So let's take a look at this. This is the quote. He's talking to Judge Shapiro. If you listen to every idiotic thing the Biden administration has done in the first 100 days, you'll begin to realize whether it's threatening everybody who believes in the Second Amendment, or it's attacking everybody who believes in the right to life, or it's attacking people of traditional values who are appalled that this administration would fly the gay flag in America's embassies over the wall. You just go down item by item. It's almost as if they have a checklist of what can we do that will truly infuriate traditional Americans. I've never seen anything like it, and somebody asked me this. It's basically, I've never seen any administration so radical and hostile. Let's take a look at the things that he's saying. This was last month. He said, it's an America where transgender dominates Christianity and Judaism. Let's be clear, because this is a really good talking point on the right, and I need the people who are on the right and the people who follow me to understand this. We are not a Christian country. The people in charge may have Christian beliefs, but we are not a Christian country. I don't care what your religion is. Your religion is you. You practice it how you believe. When it affects other people, that's when you're disengaging for what America is. My beliefs are my beliefs. Your beliefs are your beliefs. Believe whatever the hell you want, assuming you're not hurting other people. But you cannot impose your beliefs on other people. That's not how America works. Okay? So let's look at this. Threatening everybody who believes in the Second Amendment. Now, I want to keep in mind that there have been more mass shootings in days of the years. That's just mass shootings. This year. I think we're up to something like 15,000 people have lost their lives from gun violence. Joe Biden's response has been, please, Congress, pass some laws. I'm going to do some stuff about ghost guns, and I'm going to try to make I'm going to put together a committee to look over red flag laws to make it like a universal thing for states. That's all he's done. This is now threatening everybody who believes in the Second Amendment. Keep in mind that, I have a video on this. I just forget the state. I think it's Nevada. It's Nevada or Montana, one of them, has decided that they passed a law that says that their state law enforcement doesn't have to comply with federal law enforcement when it comes to gun control. They can just ignore that. That's a sanctuary city. Look, if doing something 97% of Americans want, like federal background checks, is going against something everybody believes in, the people who you are hanging out with is such a fraction of the country that you're actively hurting more people. Attacking everyone who believes in right to life. Now, they always say this. You are welcome to believe in right to life. I think you're wrong. I truly believe that there's a certain point where science says that the baby is viable. And if you're going to worry about removing the baby then that's a different conversation. But this 6-week heartbeat bill, or if you're going to arrest the doctors for doing an abortion, or you have to make them bury the baby, all of that stuff that's not okay. The bills where if you have the people who advocate for, if a child gets raped, they have to carry the baby because how else will we know that they got raped? That's absurd. This is the worst one. Or is it attacking people of traditional values who are appalled that this administration would fly the gay flag at Americans' embassies all the world? It's not the gay flag. It's the pride flag. And I know you don't know this, Newt, because you're still stuck in the 80s and the 90s. Americans are accepting of gay people. Your new target is transgender people, but they're accepting of transgender people too. And I can prove this with polling. Majority across partisans say discrimination against LGBTQ individuals should be illegal. So whether you're passing one of those bills that says, you can't play in sports, which is not an issue. It's not an issue. I did a story on this. The people in Florida, they've had 12 cases of someone becoming a different gender trying to play in a sport at the high school level. This is not an issue. So denying them health care, this idea that it's genital mutilation, it's just not based in fact. It's not based in the science and how it is. So he's wrong here. Now we have to get to the truly dangerous. Tucker Carlson is peddling both lies and he's advocating for people to do something is illegal. But before we go to this, there were studies found. The more likely, this from the beginning of the pandemic, the more you watch Fox News or right-wing outlets, the more likely you were to get COVID or the people around you were to get COVID. That's just a fact. And why? Because they played it down. They lied about the cures. They lied about how it spreads. They lied about all these other things. So here's Tucker Carlson, because now the new thing is you have to hate masks. So he had this thing yesterday, but it just got updated today, basically saying if you're vaccinated, you can go into a park and you're kind of by yourself and you're outside, you shouldn't wear a mask. Now, the reason people are like, why would I wear a mask if I'm vaccinated? It's for other people, because even though the vaccination exists, you might not be able to, you might still get the virus. It's happened. I think it's like under 100 people have died who've gotten the virus, but I think it's like 5,000 who've gotten the vaccine have gotten infected. Because this vaccine, and we're going to need boosters for this. So, yes, the CDC guidelines, waiting for the CDC guidelines to tell you this is good. But here's what Tucker Carlson says. He says requiring child to wear masks outdoors was child abuse. The only people who wear masks outside are zealots and neurotics. And he said seeing a vaccinated person wear a mask outside was like watching a grown man expose himself to public. Now, look. Any single person who complained about having to wear a mask is a fucking child. Bro, if you're so delicate and you're so scared of having to put on a piece of cloth, and you're not one of those idiots who doesn't understand how masks work to the point that you said, I can't breathe in them, get over yourself, man. Literally, like the least inconvenience thing that could happen to you is to wear a mask. And this idea that, hey, it's my constitutional right to not wear a mask. No, it's not. When there's a public health crisis, your rights are superseded by the safety of the other people. But let's continue this. Your response when you see a child wearing a mask as they play should be no different from your response of seeing someone beat a kid in Walmart. Call the police immediately, contact Child Protective Services, keep calling until someone arrives. What you're looking at is abuse. It is child abuse, and you are morally obligated to attempt to end it. This is illegal. You are not allowed to you're not allowed to call the police on under a false premise. This is not child abuse to wear a mask. While children are less likely to get the disease and less likely to die from it, it is not impossible. This idea that if you see a child, because he advocates this to being punched in the face, is unbelievable. If you're in a crowd, you should be wearing a mask, regardless of whether or not you're vaccinated. If you're by yourself or you're with family who's been vaccinated, you don't have to wear a mask. Just wear a mask. Get vaccinated. The faster you do these things, the faster you can go back to being normal. Although I imagine people are going to wear masks beyond this because it's a different way to look at the world. We realize that a lot of the things we're doing, we're needlessly exposing people to things. So let's talk about this other So let's talk about, it's not a conspiracy theory. Well, it is. There was a story pushed out by the New York Post, I believe it is. Yes, the New York Post, about kids who came to the border would get Kamala Harris's book in a care package. And it was based on literally this picture. What happened was, this was then a story. But what actually happened was, I think it's Rhode Island, they have one of these overflow centers. And they asked the people there to donate things, whether it's books, whether it's medicine, whether it's supplies. And apparently somebody donated this book. This was not the government paying to give kids these books, but of course this was spread out by the right wing. This is the same thing as Joe Biden is coming for your meat. Joe Biden said you can't have meat. This is the same exact thing. It is nonsense. It is not true. It is just fake news. They're scaremongering. They're saying they're going to give these kids a book. Imagine if Trump had did this. Let's be clear. These conditions these kids are in are not good. I have said that multiple times. I don't know if it's gotten any better. I haven't looked into it yet. And I haven't looked at directly the numbers to compare them to. But the answer is not build a wall. The answer is not allow these kids not to come in. The answer is get more judges, get them into homes. That's what it is. So no, Kamala Harris is not giving them, Kamala Harris's book is not being given to them. Somebody donated it, but that's not what it is. So now I want to go talk to the talking heads. This is Tomi Lahren. Tomi Lahren's sole job is to just say crazy things and advocate for terrible, heinous policies. She is awful. So let's take a look at some of her recent tweets. Sleepy Joe doesn't have to allow me to go outside without a mask. I never did and never will. Burn the mask. The fact this is a hashtag is this trending? No, it just appears to be okay. It's a Tomi Lahren thing. Look, to remove any remaining mask mandates. Look, wearing a mask is not a restriction of your rights. Having a business decide whether you're allowed in, whether you're wearing a mask or not, is not a restriction of your rights either. Why? Because a business can restrict you from coming in without a shirt on. So it's the same with the mask. Let's see, what are the other things? This is, let's keep going. Let's look at Candace Owens. This one is the worst.
or do. I don't care, but leave me the hell alone. If you wear an N95 mask, you don't need me to. If you're vaccinated, you don't need me to. If you're social distance, this is the same argument since the beginning. You can't live in a world where you only look after yourself. We live in a society. You have to look out for other people. This idea of don't wearing a mask is so stupid. This idea that you're free because you weren't wearing a mask is stupid. There was just a report that came out that said Texas and Florida had lower COVID numbers. But the key word in that report was reported, because they're not testing and reporting the same way as other states. So that's why their numbers are better. Not because if you don't have mask mandates, you don't have COVID. That makes no sense. That's not how this virus is spread. We're a year into this. This is such a stupid talking point. Let's see what Donald Trump Jr. says. More of the same here. Let's see if he has other stuff. Oh, here it is. Rather than patronize BS, I'd really like them to discuss obesity. Look, all right, you know what, we're done here. Look. The point is, they're pushing cultural war issues because they don't have the policy arguments. When you see something like Joe Biden is coming for your meat, Kamala Harris's book is being given out at the border, or masks don't work, or get rid of the mask, look into why. Think about who's pushing this. The science has proven over and over again that masks work. You should get vaccinated. You should wear a mask. It is not against your rights to wear a mask. I truly believe that you should be forced to be vaccinated unless there's a medical issue, because it's a safety concern. Because the people that I love and the people that I know should not be put into risk because you think, oh, it's not going to affect me, I'm invincible. And that goes for either side. But ultimately, this is a lot of nonsense. When you lose the ability to legislate from a popular position and you don't want to change and update your policies, you end up just spreading culture war nonsense and just nothing. So please, like and subscribe this video. Please follow me on Twitter, and I will see you in the next one.